Hi there. In this lecture we will be talking about doing the same thing as what we did in the last lecture in Python, now in PHP. What I'm going to do is create a new file and call it cat.php. So now we have cat.php. Fantastic. Now what I'm going to do is start our PHP file as we do with all PHP files with our opening PHP tag. Now to create our class we would just say class cat the same way that we would in Python, except instead of using our open close brackets to define our class at the beginning and our colon, as we did in Python, we just open close our curly braces. So now we don't care about our indentation, we just want to make sure that the code blocks that are relevant are contained within our curly braces. I still want to use indentation though for legibility. So the same way that we defined our function in Python by saying def meow, we are now using the word function, which again is a method is called a method in the context of a class. Lovely. So now we can say meow, open close brackets as we've done before, and then again indicating that this function is part of meow by the open close brackets. Anything inside of here will be part of the meow function. I'm going to use the print function again, and I'm going to say meow, followed by a semicolon at the end of the line. Fantastic. So now we have a working class the same way that we did in our Python method, and we can now call that class to create an object. So let us create our variable. What you will notice is we are using the $sign at the beginning of the variable declaration, as opposed to just declaring the variable in Python for our PHP, and now we are saying is equal to. And what is very important with PHP as opposed to Python is that we need to use the keyword new. We are creating a new instance of this cat blueprint or this cat class. Python is clever enough to work out that we don't need to do this. And now we say cat, open close brackets, and followed by our semicolon. Fantastic. Now Tom the cat is a new cat. And again, Tom the cat should be able to meow. As I mentioned in the previous lecture, the way that we call a method within our class in Python is with a dot, and with PHP is with a dash greater than sign or smaller than sign. And now we can call our meow method similarly to the way that we called it in our Python class. You'll also notice again a semicolon at the end of a line. So now if we go to ls again, and we can see here we now have our cat.php file added. In order to run a PHP file, we would need to use the words php and then say the file that we want to use. So what we want to do here is use our PHP compiler to run a PHP file. In Python, we said python cat.py, which would now run this script, whatever script we select as the first parameter, with that compiler. So if we did this, python cat.php, it would break because our syntax would be completely wrong. So we need to now use our PHP compiler to run our PHP code. Fantastic, it is now meowing. That is exactly what we want. Now I want to talk a little bit about an attribute or a variable, a class variable. What we mentioned in the previous lecture is that a method or a function within a class is something that a class can do and not an attribute of that class. An attribute of that class would be something like a cat's color, or a cat's, how many eyes does a cat have, what speed can it run, what is the sound of the meow, or the pitch at which the meow happens, something that can be tweaked and altered, usually in the form of a string or an integer or a float, something like that. When I say string, I mean a line of text. When I say integer, I mean a whole number. And when I say a float, it would be a floating point number. So something that's got something, point, etc. So let's quickly define a attribute for our cat class in PHP, and then I'll move on to doing the same thing in Python. Fantastic. So what we need to do is we need to define the color of a cat. Because I'm South African, I'm going to take out the U. Oh, well, I would prefer to have the U here, but I think because we are conforming to American standards, because we are coding, I'm going to keep color without the U. So we are now creating an attribute of our cat. So let us give it a variable name called color is equal to, and then if we would like to have a default value, we can add the default value into here. If not, we just end our line with a semicolon. I do want to add a default value, so I want our cat to be black, and I'm going to finish this off with a semicolon. Now what I can do is I can call the color of my cat by saying cat, calling something, and then, oopsie, not black, color. So because it is an attribute and not a method, we do not need to finish it off with open close brackets. This should now return us the word black. So if we want to actually print that out, we will need to do this, which should now print out the word black. Now this is again going to give us an error, but let's just try and see what happens. Pass error, function t expecting function something in here, introduction to Django line 5. Fantastic. Let's have a look and see what is going on here. Cool. So what is happening here is that we are hitting the issue of scope. Let's clean this up a bit. Scope meaning who can access this variable, so, or this attribute. So in our cat class, if we went like this, if we did something like this, so this variable is the same as the self variable in here, so we can use this similarly to the way that we use self in Python. So this, and then again we call our color. Our meow is now printing out this color. So let's try that. Let's say Tom the cat, or we won't even need to print it out, because the function, the method is already printing it for us. We can say Tom the cat, calling the meow function. So let's see if this works. So we are now, because of scope, we are now calling the color within this class. So at no point are we attempting to access this color attribute from outside of the class other than just printing it out within the function. We are allowed to do it like this. Let's see what happens. Line 5, color black. It's still not letting me do it. So the solution to this would be to add a keyword here. So there are mainly 3 types of keywords that we can add at the beginning of our attributes within a class. First is public. Public means that it is accessible anywhere within the class and anywhere outside of the class, so ideally this should be public. The next is protected, which means that this variable can be accessed within this class and any child classes that may be created from this class. I'm not going to talk about child classes right now, we may talk about them later. And then the final attribute, that's the final prefix to this attribute, is private, which means that our color black is accessible only within this class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to public, which means that now anybody can access our color black. So if we now run this, we are now getting black. Fantastic. And the same way, if we want to just call black without having to actually add a function, we should be able to just call the color. Let's call that now. We are not printing it out. Let's actually print it out. Save, and we should see black again. Fantastic. So what is the point of this whole class story? Well, the point is that if we wanted to create a new cat called Felix, or whatever a cat's name might be, Spot, or Tiger, or whatever, we can now create an additional instance of that cat. Spot the cat is equal to a new cat. Now, by default, Spot's color, Spot the cat's color will be black, and its meow will sound the same. So what we can then do is we can then change various things within this specific instance of the cat, so that Tom's color may be different from Spot's color. Now, this is when on creation or with using a method, we can change different attributes of a cat to function differently, but while still keeping all of this code intact. I will be looking at doing this as well as extending our cat function to a point where we can start changing things between classes in the next lecture within the Python class object paradigm.